The crystal chandelier above cast fractured light across the obituary section, but Eleanor Grant wasn't reading about the dead. Her trembling fingers gripped the society page where a single photograph had stolen the air from her lungs. Duke David Ashford returns to Millbrook after 15 years. The coffee shop hummed with afternoon chatter, but Eleanor heard nothing except the thundering of her own heartbeat. That face, sharp jawline now, eyes still impossibly blue, belonged to a ghost. Not the kind that haunted graveyards, but the kind that haunted every what-if she'd buried alongside her husband 3 years ago. David Chen, skinny, awkward David Chen, who'd sat behind her in AP Literature, who'd slipped terrible poetry into her locker, who'd disappeared without a word the week before graduation. David from high school. The feared Duke? The words escaped her lips in a breathless echo. The newspaper trembled in her hands. According to the article, Duke Ashford, David, was Millbrook's most mysterious benefactor, a venture capitalist worth billions, and a man whose business rivals spoke his name with equal parts reverence and terror. The feared Duke wasn't just a nickname, it was a warning. But the photograph showed something the article didn't mention. In the background of the charity gala shot, barely visible, was a locket, silver, oval, unmistakable. Eleanor's hand flew to her throat, finding the empty space where an identical locket had once hung, the one she'd lost, the one she'd given away 17 years ago. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Eleanor, we need to talk. The truth isn't what you think. Meet me at Riverside Park. Tonight. 8 p.m. Come alone. D. The coffee cup slipped from her numb fingers, shattering against the tile floor. Eleanor sat in her car outside the coffee shop for 20 minutes, staring at the text message until the screen went dark. Then she stared at her reflection in the rearview mirror instead. I am 35 years old, widow, high school English teacher, a life built on predictability and safety. Everything she'd thought she wanted when she'd married Marcus Grant at 23. Marcus, kind, stable Marcus with his accounting firm and his Sunday golf games, and his gentle, undemanding love. He'd given her security, comfort, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and she'd loved him for it, hadn't she? In the quiet, grateful way you love a warm blanket on a cold night, but you don't write poetry about blankets. Elle, you're doing that thing again. Eleanor jumped as her best friend Vanessa appeared at the passenger window, tapping on the glass with her car keys. She unlocked the door, and Vanessa slid in, her dark eyes immediately narrowing with concern. The 1,000-yard stare? That's either about Marcus or that leak in your classroom ceiling. Vanessa paused. Wait, you've been crying. What happened? Eleanor wordlessly handed her the phone. Vanessa's eyes widened as she read, then scrolled to the newspaper article Eleanor had already pulled up. Holy, David Chen, scrawny poetry boy, is a duke? Like an actual, not an actual duke. It's what they call him in business. Apparently, he's ruthless. Eleanor's voice cracked. Vanessa, he disappeared. The week before graduation. No goodbye, no explanation. I waited for him at our spot by the river every day that summer. I remember. Vanessa's voice softened. You were heartbroken. What Vanessa didn't know, what no one knew, was that Eleanor had been 17 and pregnant when David vanished. She'd sat by that river, terrified and alone, rehearsing how she'd tell him, waiting for someone who never came. The miscarriage happened 3 weeks later. Alone in a hospital bathroom, Eleanor had lost 2 futures in one devastating night. The baby and the dream of the boy who'd made her feel like she was worth writing poetry about. She'd buried it all, told no one, met Marcus 2 years later and built a different life. You're going to meet him, aren't you? Vanessa asked quietly. Eleanor touched her throat again, that absent space where the locket had been, David's locket. The one she'd given him the night before he disappeared, containing a photograph and a secret she'd never spoken aloud. If he still had it after all these years, then he knew. He'd always known. Yes, Eleanor whispered, I'm going. Riverside Park looked different at night. The street lamps cast long shadows across the path where Eleanor had once walked hand in hand with a boy who quoted Neruda and blushed when she laughed. Now her footsteps echoed against the pavement, each one pulling her further from safety and closer to answers she wasn't sure she wanted. He stood beneath the old oak tree, their tree, but he wasn't alone. Two men in dark suits flanked him at a discreet distance. Security, she realized. David himself was nothing like the boy she remembered. The angles of his face had sharpened. His frame had filled out with the confidence of someone who'd conquered worlds. A charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly salary fit him perfectly. But his eyes, those eyes were the same storm of blue that had once looked at her like she was the only real thing in the world. Eleanor. Her name in his voice was a ghost that came to life. She stopped 3 feet away, arms crossed defensively. You have 5 minutes. Then I'm leaving. I need more than 5 minutes to explain 17 years. You had 17 years. You chose silence. Her voice shook despite her effort to sound strong. Why now, David? Or should I call you Your Grace? Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or regret. He reached into his jacket, and the security guards tensed. Eleanor's breath caught as he pulled out the silver locket, the chain pooling in his palm like liquid moonlight. Because someone is trying to kill me, he said quietly, and you're the only person who can prove I didn't murder my father. The world tilted. Your father? Eleanor's mind raced. Your father died when you were 12. You told me. I lied, David's jaw clenched. About everything. My name isn't David Chen, it's David Ashford. My father didn't die. He disowned me. And 3 weeks ago, someone poisoned him at his estate. The police found this locket at the scene. He held it up, and even in the darkness, Eleanor could see the inscription she'd etched inside 17 years ago. Forever yours, E. They think I planted evidence to frame someone, David continued, his voice rough. But I haven't seen this locket since the night you gave it to me. The night before, I was dragged away from Millbrook by my father's security team. The night before, everything I cared about was ripped away. Eleanor's knees weakened. That's impossible. I saw you at school that week. That wasn't me. David stepped closer, and she could see the exhaustion in his face, the fear beneath the polished exterior. Eleanor, someone has been impersonating me. Someone who knew about us, about this locket. And whoever they are, they've been planning this for years. He opened the locket with trembling fingers. Inside was her photograph, 17 years younger, and beside it, a small folded paper she'd never seen before. David unfolded it carefully, revealing a sonogram image. Eleanor's heart stopped. I didn't know, David whispered, his voice breaking. I swear to you, Elle, I didn't know about the baby. But someone did, and they've been watching us this whole time. Eleanor snatched the locket from his hand, her vision blurring with tears. How did this get in here? I lost the baby. I lost. Her voice shattered. David's hand reached for her shoulder, but she jerked away. Don't. You don't get to comfort me. You don't get to show up after 17 years with your security guards and your billion-dollar empire and... I looked for you. The rawness in his voice stopped her cold. Every single day for 2 years I searched. Private investigators, hackers, everyone. But my father made you disappear, Eleanor. Change your school records, your family's address. By the time I found you again, you were married, wearing his ring, smiling in wedding photos. You watched me? I needed to know you were happy. David's composure cracked. That at least one of us got the life we wanted. Happy? Eleanor laughed bitterly. I married a good man I didn't love because the boy who promised me forever vanished without a trace. I built a life on the ashes of what we had, David. Don't you dare romanticize it. One of the security guards murmured into his earpiece, then approached urgently. Sir, we need to move. There's been a shot rang out. David slammed into Eleanor, driving them both behind the oak tree as bark exploded above their heads. The security guards returned fire toward the tree line, shouting coordinates into their radios. Eleanor's ears rang. David's body covered hers, his heart hammering against her back, his breath hot against her neck. For a moment she was 17 again, pressed against him in the back of his old Honda, believing love could conquer anything. The car, now! One guard yanked them both up, half carrying Eleanor toward a black SUV that screeched to a halt on the pathway. They dove into the back seat. The vehicle peeled away as two more shots pinged off the bulletproof windows. Who's shooting at us? Eleanor gasped, adrenaline flooding her system. Someone who knows we met tonight. David's jaw was tight, his hand still gripping hers. Someone who's been one step ahead this entire time. Eleanor looked down at their intertwined fingers, her small hand in his larger one, exactly the way they used to fit together. She should pull away. She should demand to be taken home, back to her safe, predictable life. Instead, she squeezed tighter. The sonogram, she said quietly. Where did it come from? I never had one. I lost the baby before. David's eyes widened with realization. Then someone created it. Someone who wanted me to believe. He pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. Elle, what if you weren't the only one? What if my father didn't just separate us? What if he... The phone buzzed with an incoming call. Unknown number. David answered the speaker. A distorted voice filled the car. Hello, brother. Did you enjoy my gift? Eleanor looks lovely tonight, almost like she did at 17. Mother would have adored her if you hadn't killed her too. The line went dead. Eleanor's blood turned to ice. Brother? David's face had gone white. That's impossible. I'm an only child. But the look in his eyes said he wasn't sure anymore. Have you ever discovered that everything you believed about your past was a carefully constructed lie? Share your thoughts below. The SUV pulled into an underground garage beneath a building Eleanor didn't recognize. David's security team swept them into a private elevator that rose silently to the penthouse level. The doors opened to reveal a sprawling apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Millbrook's glittering skyline. Talk, Eleanor demanded the moment they were alone. Everything, now. David poured himself a scotch with shaking hands. My mother died when I was 16. Official cause? Suicide. She'd been struggling with depression for years, or so my father told everyone. He downed the drink. 2 weeks before she died, she told me something. Something that made my father send me away the moment he found out I knew. What did she tell you? That I had a twin brother. That my father had taken him away when we were infants because... David's voice broke. Because he was born with a heart condition. My father saw him as weak, imperfect. So he erased him, put him in an institution, and told my mother he died. Eleanor's hand flew to her mouth. David, my mother spent 16 years trying to find him. And when she finally did, when she threatened to expose what my father had done, she committed suicide. The bitterness in his voice was palpable. I confronted my father the night before graduation, told him I was going to the police, going to the media. That's when his security team dragged me away. He gave me a choice: disappear from Millbrook forever, never contact anyone from my old life, or he'd make sure you and your family paid the price. Me, Eleanor whispered. He knew about us, Elle. He knew everything. He showed me photographs of your house, your little sister's school schedule, and your mother's workplace. David's fists clenched. I was 17 and terrified, so I let him ship me off to boarding school in Switzerland. Let him change my name back to Ashford. Let him mold me into his heir while my brother rotted in some facility. Eleanor crossed the room and took his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. Where is your brother now? That's the thing. David's voice dropped to barely a whisper. 6 months ago, I finally found the institution, but the records showed he died there. 15 years ago. Heart failure. Then who was on the phone? David pulled up a file on his tablet, hands trembling as he showed her a photograph. 2 infant boys, identical, wrapped in hospital blankets. Then another photo. A death certificate for Marcus Chen, the name his brother had been given. Eleanor's world stopped spinning. Ella, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a... My husband, she breathed. My husband's name was Marcus Chen. The tablet slipped from David's fingers, clattering to the marble floor. That's a common name. It's a coincidence. It has to be. But David was already pulling up more files, his face growing paler with each swipe. Marcus Chen, born the same day as David, adopted at age 2 from a private facility. No medical records before that. Worked as an accountant, but had a trust fund he never explained. Died 3 years ago in a car accident that was ruled accidental but never thoroughly investigated. Married to Eleanor Grant, née Eleanor Torres, David's childhood sweetheart. "Oh God," Eleanor gasped, backing away. Oh God, he knew. Marcus knew who I was, who you were. He married me to hurt me." David's voice was hollow. "He found out about us somehow. Found you. Married you. Made me watch you build a life with him." Eleanor's legs gave out. She sank onto the sofa, her mind reeling through 17 years of marriage. Marcus's insistence on staying in Millbrook. His strange questions about her high school boyfriend. The way he'd always discouraged her from looking backward, from seeking closure. The locket. She'd lost the locket the month before Marcus died. "David," she said slowly, horror creeping up her spine, "if Marcus died 3 years ago, who's been pretending to be your brother?" The lights went out. In the darkness, David's phone illuminated with a text message. A photo. Eleanor and David, taken through the penthouse window, from across the street, right now. Below it. "Family reunions are so touching. Too bad Father isn't here to see it. But don't worry, I've saved him a front row seat for the finale. Check your old locker, Eleanor. Millbrook High, midnight. Come alone or David joins Father in the ground." "You're not going." David's voice was steel. Eleanor was already grabbing her coat. "They'll kill your father. My father deserves whatever he gets." David blocked the door, his face hard. "This is a trap, Elle. They want you there to hurt me. I won't lose you again." "You don't get to make that choice." Eleanor's voice cracked. "For 17 years, men have made choices for me. Your father, Marcus, you. I'm done being protected like I'm fragile." "You are fragile. We both are." David grabbed her shoulders. "Don't you see? Whoever this is, they've orchestrated everything. They knew we'd find each other. They're counting on us caring enough to walk into—" "Your father is still a human being, David. He's a monster who destroyed our lives." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Eleanor pulled away. "Maybe, but I need to know the truth. I need to understand why Marcus spent years pretending to love me. Why did someone put a fake sonogram in that locket? Why did any of this happen?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I need to know if anything in my life was real." David's expression shattered. "This is real. What we had. What we still have." "Do we?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "Or is this just another manipulation? How do I know you're really you? How do I know any of this isn't?" The slap of her own words hit her as hard as they hit him. David stepped back as if she'd struck him physically. "You think I'm lying? I don't know what to think anymore." Eleanor was sobbing now. "My dead husband might have been your twin brother who maybe isn't dead. Someone is trying to kill you. Your father might be dying, and I'm standing in a stranger's penthouse with a man who looks like the boy I loved but feels like—" "A stranger," David finished, his voice hollow. "I'm a stranger to you now." The silence was devastating. Eleanor's phone buzzed. A new message. A video file. With trembling hands, she pressed play. The footage showed a man bound to a chair in a dark room, beaten and bloodied. David's father, older, grayer, but unmistakably him. Behind him stood a figure in the shadows. "Eleanor," the distorted voice from before. "You have 2 hours. Come alone to Millbrook High, or I send David pieces of his father, and then I will come for you both." The figure stepped into the light. Eleanor's scream died in her throat. The face staring back at her from the screen was Marcus, her dead husband. Very much alive. The phone clattered to the floor. Eleanor couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't— David caught her as her knees buckled. "Elle, look at me. Look at me." She focused on his eyes, those blue eyes she'd memorized at 17. "Marcus is alive. I was married to a dead man. I was married to your brother who isn't dead, and he—" Hysteria climbed her throat. "Breathe," David commanded, his hands framing her face. "In and out. With me. Elle, stay with me." She matched his breathing, their foreheads pressed together like they used to do when the world felt too big. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm so scared and I don't know what's real anymore. This, David's thumb traced her cheekbone. This is real. The way I've loved you for 17 years is real. The way I never stopped looking for you is real. Eleanor pulled back slightly, studying his face, and suddenly she saw it, the answer hidden in plain sight. He wants us both there, she said slowly, her mind racing. Marcus kept me in Millbrook all those years. He married me to keep me close. Not just to hurt you. To use you as bait, David finished, understanding dawning. If he wanted me dead, he'd have countless opportunities. But he wants something else. Eleanor grabbed the tablet, pulling up the photos again. Your father separated you. Marcus spent years in an institution. Then he faked his death, found me, married me. He's been watching us both, orchestrating everything. The locket at the crime scene, David said. He planted it, but not to frame me for murder. He needed the police investigation to bring you home, Eleanor breathed. To bring us both back to where it started. David's eyes hardened with determination. Then we give him what he wants, but on our terms. He pulled out his phone, dialing. James, I need every security asset we have at Millbrook High in 30 minutes. Silent approach. And bring the files, all of them. Eleanor touched his arm. David, if we do this, we do it together, he said firmly. No more separation, no more lies. Whatever happens tonight, we face it as we should have 17 years ago. Eleanor took his hand, their fingers intertwining like they'd never been apart. Together, she agreed. For the first time in hours, she felt something stronger than fear. She felt ready. Millbrook High looked like a skeleton at midnight, all shadows and empty hallways. Eleanor's footsteps echoed against the linoleum as she walked toward her old locker. David's security team positioned silently throughout the building. Locker 247. Her hand trembled as she spun the combination, the same one from 17 years ago. Inside was a single photograph. 3 boys. Identical. Not twins. Triplets. Eleanor's breath caught as David appeared beside her, his face draining of color. That's impossible. There were only 2 of us. Only, hello, brothers, they spun. Marcus stood at the end of the hallway, but he wasn't alone. Beside him stood David's father, untied, unharmed. And next to them both was a third man, identical to Marcus and David, but older somehow, wearier. Surprised? Marcus's smile was bitter. Let me introduce Elijah Ashford, the eldest, the one father deemed too defective to exist. 3 of us, Elijah said softly, his voice gentle despite the gun in his hand. 3 sons. But father only wanted the perfect one. He looked at David. You! David's father finally spoke, his voice hoarse. I gave you money, comfort. I paid for institutions, Elijah's shout echoed. For doctors to experiment on us like lab rats. You kept the healthy one and threw away the broken ones. You had a heart condition, their father said coldly. Marcus had seizures. You would have died anyway. So you made us disappear, Marcus finished. Told mother we were dead. And when she found out the truth, you killed her. Eleanor stepped forward, her teacher's instinct overriding her fear. Marcus, you don't have to do this. Whatever he did, he took everything. Marcus's composure cracked. My mother, my identity. And then I found out he'd given David the one thing I wanted most, a chance at love. At you. His eyes found hers and she saw the truth there. I did love you, Eleanor. That wasn't fake. But it started as revenge and became my greatest torture. Every day with you, I saw what I could have been if I'd been the one he kept. Then don't become him, Eleanor pleaded. Don't let his cruelty make you cruel. It's too late for that, Elijah said quietly, raising the gun toward their father. He has to pay for what he did to mother. To all of us. David moved without thinking, stepping between the gun and his father. No! Move! Elijah shouted. No! David's voice was steady. He deserves prison. He deserves to face what he's done. But if you kill him, you're not getting justice. You're just continuing the cycle. He looked at Marcus. We can end this, all of us, together. Marcus's hand tightened on Elijah's arm. For a long moment, the hallway held its breath. Then Marcus lowered his brother's gun. Together, he whispered. The three of us. Against him. The way it should have been from the beginning. David's father lunged for the gun, but Eleanor was faster. Her hand shot out with the canister of pepper spray Vanessa had insisted she carry, catching him full in the face. The man who'd destroyed 3 lives crumpled, gasping. David's security team flooded in. Police sirens wailed outside, and 3 brothers stood together for the first time in their lives. 6 months later, Eleanor stood in the doorway of a community center that hadn't existed before. The plaque beside the entrance read, "The Maria Ashford Center for Family Reconciliation." Inside, Marcus sat with a group of adoptees, sharing his story with the kind of raw honesty that came from years of therapy. Elijah worked in the medical wing, his background in survival making him the perfect advocate for at-risk youth. David's father was serving 20 years for fraud, conspiracy, and his role in their mother's death. The trial had been brutal, public, and necessary. And David was waiting for her by the riverside. He looked up as she approached, that same nervous smile from high school crossing his face. "Hi. Hi yourself." Eleanor sat beside him on the bench they'd claimed as theirs again. "Marcus called. He wanted you to know he's taking the teaching position. At-risk kids in the foster system." "That's good." David's hand found hers. "He's good at reaching people who feel invisible. Like someone else I know." Eleanor squeezed his fingers. "Elijah's opening a second clinic next month. He asked if you'd speak at the ribbon cutting." "My brothers," David said softly, wondering still in his voice. "I have brothers." "You do." Eleanor leaned her head on his shoulder. Broken, healing, real brothers. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the river flow like time itself, carrying away the past, bringing in something new. "I have something for you," David said finally, pulling out a small box. Eleanor's breath caught. Inside was the silver locket, polished and restored. "I had it cleaned," he said. "Removed the fake sonogram, and I added something new." She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a new photograph. Eleanor and David, taken just last week, laughing in this exact spot, and beside it, a tiny inscription. "Second chances. Real love. Forever this time." "David Chen Ashford," Eleanor whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Are you asking me to marry me?" "Yes." He slid off the bench, kneeling on the grass. "To build a life that's ours, not dictated by fear or revenge or anyone else's plan. To write our own ending." His voice cracked. "I've loved you since I was 16 years old, Eleanor Torres Grant, and I'll love you until the day I die. Will you?" "Yes." She pulled him up, kissing him with 17 years of longing and healing and hope. "Yes, yes, yes." The locket swung between them, catching the sunset light. Behind them, neither noticed Marcus and Elijah standing at a distance, smiling. The 3 brothers had made a pact to protect each other's happiness the way they'd never been protected, to be the family they'd been denied. Marcus raised his hand in a silent salute before turning away, giving his brother the moment he deserved. Eleanor pulled back, studying David's face. Older, scarred, but finally at peace. "No more secrets?" she asked. "No more secrets," he promised. "Just us. The truth. And whatever comes next." She kissed him again, and for the first time in 17 years, the future felt like a gift instead of a sentence. The river flowed on, and 2 people who'd been torn apart by cruelty chose love instead. Sometimes the most beautiful endings come from the most broken beginnings. Have you ever gotten a second chance at something you thought was lost forever? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. The end. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.